Episode 7. Episode 7. We've got the other half of Sin, Ryan Holmes. It was hard getting this guy on the podcast. Obviously, he was gutted that we asked Dale first, but we finally convinced him and he's back on. So, to start off this podcast, I'm going to ask you a question. And the question is, where did you start your journey? Take us right back to the start, where it all began.
Cool. Just before that, I recall that differently. Did you not ask me first and I was busy? I'm pretty sure.
I don't recall that.
Where did I start my journey? Started straight out of school. I was never big in school, to be honest with you. I'll not give you my whole journey of like my teenage years or anything like that. But I left school as soon as I was allowed to leave school, and I went straight into college. Done an NQ in sport and fitness. So that was like my first kind of path towards where I am now. That was like the entry of it. I always knew that this was kind of the region or the area that I wanted to work within. Done my NQ. It was 1 year. And then I actually went to uni after that to do sports coaching. Lasted 6 months, sacked it off. So I think I was just too young, too immature, if I'm being completely honest, to do uni, to be honest with you. There's just a lot of responsibility in uni in comparison to like an NQ in college. Like it's very handheld led, very activity based, and then you go into uni where it's like real life, like needing to study, needing to actually hold yourself accountable. So didn't work for me. And I ended up just messing around in shit jobs for a little while, just kind of a wee bit lost. And then I went back to college when I think I was 21 at the time, to do a HND in sport and fitness, in sports therapy. So that was kind of me getting back into it, knowing that was where my career path was. Wasted too much time. Went in and done my HND in sport and fitness, qualified in, I think it was 2013 from that. Like, when were you born?
I was 10 in 2013.
I think that was 2013. So, and I actually done some work with that before I worked in gyms. So I ended up doing things like pitch side first aid. I was a sports therapist for a junior football team, just doing things like sports massage and kind of injuries and stuff like that. But I was doing that part time, and then I got a job in Parklands Country Club. At that point, I was only a level 2 gym instructor. I didn't have my level 3 yet. So, job in Parklands Country Club just as a fitness instructor, which basically means a gym attendant. You're in the gym, you're not really doing much with the gym other than cleaning the mirrors and cleaning the machines and stuff like that. But it got my foot in the door. It kind of got me used to getting up early in the morning. It got me surrounded by people who were actually doing what I wanted to do as well, to learn from some people. There was some good PTs in there. I started doing my qualifications whilst I was working there, and I got level 3 qualified as a PT in 2014. But I didn't really start PTing like at that point. I had 2 clients throughout the time in Parklands. I worked there for like 4 or 5 years, and I wasn't allowed to PT in the gym. Like there was only 4 PTs in the gym, and the rest of us were just like gym attendants, taking classes and stuff like that. So that didn't really like start. I had 2 clients initially, training them in their garage. I was doing sports massage on the side. I then started doing, I became the gym supervisor. I started taking about fucking 20 spin classes a week. And I was getting closer towards what I wanted to do. But the fear of not being employed and having to build up a client base was probably the thing that held me back. Held me back for quite some time. So I wasted too much time, and I kind of got sidetracked into like gym management for quite some time. I ended up in like a gym supervisor, and then I went in to become the leisure manager there. And then I moved to another gym called the Fitness Group, who I knew the guy who'd opened that gym, and he'd asked me to come down and manage their gym. So I managed their gym. It was only 25 hours, and the perk there was I had free PT rental. I could PT as much as I wanted to, so I started building a client base in there. I think that was in maybe 2016, something like that. So yeah, started properly PTing then, alongside working there. Hated that. It was a very, very small gym. It was a gym within like a big kind of call centre base, so it didn't have a huge clientele. It was quite hard to build a client base because it was literally just people who worked in call centres who, a lot of them don't have a lot of disposable income to spend on PT, so it was quite hard with that as well. It was the top floor of a 10-storey building or something like that, so the locals didn't typically use that gym. But they they done like PT qualification courses and stuff like that as well, and as they were trying to build their brand and make that a thing, they started getting influencers in, and that was kind of, I ended up working with one of the influencers, like for free. She was getting free PT, I was doing it whilst getting paid off the gym to coach her, and as I started coaching her, she started sharing loads of stuff on her socials and stuff like that, and that really helped me build a bit of a personal brand, because I didn't really do much social media. When I started in the fitness industry, it wasn't as big, like so the whole social media thing as it is now anyway. But back then, I was definitely not doing the things that other people had started doing. And through working with somebody who had a really big social platform and they were sharing what I was doing, that started to gain me a wee bit of traction within the industry. And as a result of that, I left that gym and I started working for somebody else who ran a group training facility. That was my entry into kind of strength and conditioning in a group setting. So that was in the Shed nightclub at the time. It was by far the biggest strength and conditioning group, like boot camp, group training thing in the country at the time. The guy was working with like 500 people. It was crazy. But it was great for me. It gave me exposure to so many people and so many different types of people. I'd say like as a fairly new PT, it was probably it's one of the most valuable things that I can pick out from my career in terms of like bringing me forward and learning my trade a lot more.
What age were you then?
Must have been like 25, 26, 20, maybe 27 actually. I would have been like 26, 27. 26, 27. So as I was working for that guy in the Shed, he also took on a unit in Rutherglen to do the same thing, because the Shed was at full capacity, so he wanted to go to site. And he was only doing a few evening sessions in there to build it up. So as a result, me and the other coaches that worked for him just got keys, and we got to use the facility to build our PT base. So with that particular influencer that I was talking about from the previous gym, she came with me and became a paying client. And I got another couple of influencers off the back of her. I started to get just loads and loads of like people who followed these people like inquiring with me, and my diary got very full very quick, which was great. But it was almost at the point where I probably wasn't ready to be that busy. I kind of like hadn't learned very like business skills, didn't have many systems or anything like that in place to handle the amount of people that I was working with. I was everybody had their own like notepad. I was writing programs in notepads initially. I didn't really have a structure for booking people in. I just literally would use a paper diary, pen and paper. I got to the point where I just was saying yes to everybody and filling my lunch break up with PT clients, and it just got to a point where I just didn't really like it anymore, if I'm being honest. I just done too much of it. I got too busy too quickly, and I wasn't ready for it. I didn't know how to handle it, and it just didn't seem like there was anywhere to go from there for me. And this was like around about the time I had a girlfriend at the time, and we were living together, and we separated, and I was kind of like, I'm not enjoying my job right now. I'm single, and I fucked off to Australia for like 4 months. Before that, I had just met Caroline. Bad timing. So we'd actually just started dating before I went to Australia, and I obviously like it was going really well and going serious, but I'd already booked flights to Australia and stuff like that. I was planning on actually going and potentially not coming back. But
Australia sounds so good.
It's so shit. But yeah, I ended up coming back after 3 months. Got back with Caroline. I'd actually like had said to a few PT clients I'd potentially be back in 4 months. So I had a few clients to come back to that were working with other PTs that I was friendly with, and they literally just came back again. But it was almost like starting all over again. But I'd kind of learnt my lesson in terms of like how to manage it. I wasn't earning enough. I was back living at home with my mum and dad at the time, so I didn't have like a crazy amount of overheads or anything like that. So there wasn't under any crazy financial pressure, but I didn't have any urgency to get back to where I was. I had a bunch of clients in the fitness group who I worked with, where I met the influencer I worked with at that time. They got in contact with me and asked me if I would run a course for them, which was like a sports massage course. So I had to like do a qualification on like tutoring and assessing for them, and then run this course for them, which was like good money. I wasn't that busy with PT at the time again, so it was filling a gap, and then I just slowly kind of built things back up to where I was, where I'm not as busy as I was before, but ended up pretty busy again. I'll try and hurry this along a wee bit. We went went into obviously lockdown not too long after that. So I came back from Australia in like, I think it must have been 2018, 2019. Back PTing for a year and a half, something like that. Moved to another gym. I was working in Glasgow Fitness at the time, just PTing again, knew nothing about online coaching, still didn't have the best systems, wasn't the most like clued up and well versed in technology, to be honest with you. But when I still went back and started working in the shed again. So when I came back, I was working with Pat and doing some of the group training stuff again. And one of the guys that I worked with, Jack, who's one of David Hatt's best friends, had kind of suggested like, oh, if you're wanting to get into online coaching, like my best mate's got it like figured out. He's just started this company. At the time when he mentioned that, it was just David Hatt, and I think he had Dale and Ryan Atkin at the time working for him, but they were just working under David's name. And then it became like an established brand. And I got in touch with David kind of through Jack, and I met him in Starbucks in Silverburn to chat about the potential of me coming on board. And I was working in Glasgow Fitness at this time, and it was probably like a week before we went into lockdown. And it was pretty much like a done deal that I was going to be joining MTN, and then we went into lockdown. And I was like, thank fuck for that. Thank fuck for meeting this guy here, because I had absolutely like no fallback option or plan whatsoever. So thankfully that all came through. Started with MTN, got to meet all the guys, was mainly just chatting to them on Zoom, was involved in their first ever fat loss project and stuff like that, got loads of exposure. Came out of lockdown, moved to Commando where the rest of the MTN coaches were working. And that's where I kind of got closer with Dale and David and all the rest of it. So it's kind of the timeline just now, a short version of it. I could speak all day about it, but
so obviously that, like when you came out of school, you were straight into fitness. What was like that kind of initial spark? Have you always had something like that? Obviously, I know you were a sprinter.
Yeah.
When you were younger.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always fitness that you loved to do, and that's what kind of led you towards that path.
Yeah, like I played football first, like most young guys. My dad like just brought me up to be that way. My dad was my football coach. He was just like wanted to be heavily involved and just encourage and put me in the right path. So my mum and dad were always encouraging me to be involved in various different sports. I was good at football. I played Saturday and Sunday league up until a point. I played for two football teams. My dad was manager of one, and he just came and ran me about and watched the other one. But I was fast, and I was a better runner than I was a football player. So it was just one of those ones where I naturally fell into the thing where I was pretty competitive at. So yeah, I got to a certain point with athletics, and I had a one-to-one coach for that, and he kind of made me make that decision of if you're going to do anything with this, or you're going to compete at a decent level with this, you kind of need to choose. You can't be training for football 2 nights a week, because I need you to be training for athletics 4 or 5 nights a week. So I was a sprinter, competed at a decent level. But in fact, a pretty good level at my age. I was Scottish champion in the 200 metres indoors. I was West of Scotland champion for 100 and 200 as well. Under 17s though, not like we're speaking about teenage accolades here. I'm 35 this year. But yeah, always had a keen interest in sport and sprinting, but gave that up probably about 18, 19, something like that.
I want to go back a wee second to how long you've been in the fitness industry first off, but I know a lot of PTs, and we all know that people come into the industry then leave within first couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? What kept that spark in you for that length of time? Because you said that a couple of times you didn't enjoy it. Mm-hmm. There's probably periods where you wanted to leave it. What kept the spark to go from back when you left school to now?
Probably the fact that it wasn't the job that I'd fell out of love with. It was just poor management of the job, and I was aware enough of that. I've done enough jobs that I've really not liked. I kind of, as I said, after I'd done that, dropped out of uni, I kind of dotted about, worked in a supermarket, I've worked as a tyre fitter, worked in call centres, I've worked in a bookies, and it was just all these kind of jobs, unskilled jobs where you just walk into them essentially.
Yeah.
Nothing fulfilling about them. It was just you're working for money. There's not really any career prospects with that. I think with PT, kind of going back to the fact that at school I was never really into school, and it was just nothing within school or the subjects, nothing really lit me up. Nothing really like excited me or made me want to delve deeper into it or know more about it. It wasn't until I found fitness that happened. Although I was never into technology and systems and all the rest of it, I was like massive on personal development. I've always like loved learning more about fitness. I think I listened to the podcast with you, unlike Dale. I actually listened to some of your podcasts before I come on. So I listened to Dale speaking about the fact that we've both got such a massive keen interest for movement, and that's just always been something that I've been so interested in, especially like coming from an athletics background. Like there was like you're sprinting and you're competing for 12 seconds in 100 meters, but like your form can make all the difference in whether you win a race or lose a race. And it's just the same as lifting weights. It can make all the difference in you progressing your numbers a little bit or staying injury free and getting longevity with your training. And it's just always been like a massive interest in me about how different people move and how we can make things work for them better. So I think it's just that. It's just there was just a passion for that I'd never ever had for anything else before. And I'd have been daft to throw it away. And I think taking time away from it for a period of time just kind of made me realise like I don't think there's actually anything else out there for me that would fill that void. I just need to do this differently.
Yeah, I think we are very similar in that sense. Like totally. That the spark, I think, will never go out because we love to learn, learn about movement, learn about developing others. It's such a massive thing.
You never stop learning.
Yeah,
especially in this industry.
And that kind of ties into what we want to go over next, and that's your values. I think your values are very strong in how they revolve around your life, and you say everything kind of revolves around family, fitness, and business. When did you become aware of that, and can you dive a wee bit deeper into it?
Probably not that long ago, if I'm being perfectly honest. Fitness has always been a value of mine, I would say. But there's been periods in my life where it's been a stronger value than others. When I was younger, I drank a lot. I'd done a lot of things that you shouldn't be doing, go to raves and all the rest of it sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you really truly value your fitness, you probably protect it a little bit more than what I did when I was younger. It's not been, I would say the turning point for me was having kids, if I'm being honest. As I say, I was 30 when I had kids, but I'd say I've always been like a responsible person and a fairly mature person in some ways, but maybe not in others. I've wanted to be a Peter Pan big kid for a long time, and it wasn't until I kind of settled down, met Caroline, realised I wanted to have kids, and then had kids, that it was just like a massive wake up call for me in terms of like I had a bit more purpose. But I'd say like in terms of fitness, like my goal within fitness was always to have a gym. First conversation I ever had with David Hatt, that was my goal. I said to him, I want to open my own facility, and he kind of put me off it, to be honest with you. He spoke about the overheads, how hard it is to earn money, kind of like obviously selling the dream of what an online coach would be. And I probably I definitely sidelined that goal as a result of that conversation for a long time. And I obviously had a really good life out of online coaching, but it still probably wasn't enough for me. It was actually like having the bricks and mortar, having a place. I think online coaching, obviously you do it yourself, Anton, it's like, it's great and you can have so much impact with it, but there is something missing from it for me, and it's that like connection of meeting people and building that other layer of a relationship that I'd missed when I stopped doing one-to-one PT. And I think, I've kind of lost my train of thought a wee bit here, but yeah, like in terms of values, I would say I've been pretty strong on my values for the last few years, and it's mainly been down to having kids and the responsibility of having a business and seeing the impact that it's having on people. So like me growing my business, everybody works more to earn more money. I'm not going to say that there's none of that in why I do what I do, but there's so many ways to earn money. The reason I do what I do predominantly is to help people and have an impact on people, and the amount of messages that you guys receive, we all receive, of like how you've made people feel, you can't buy that. And I think that's why business is such a strong value for me. It helps provide a life for my family, but it helps provide a better life for a hell of a lot of people. And I believe in the business that we're building here, and I feel like we would be doing people a disservice by not pushing it forward and not building it more. Fitness is like I feel I've got a responsibility to hold my fitness to a level, being in this industry, and family is what I'm doing all of it for.
Totally. That I think that answer kind of answers the question that I was going to ask you. So the question I was going to ask you was, what is your biggest drivers? Would you say that is the family? Would you say that is obviously the business, the kind of quality that we provide to people and stuff like that? What would you say is your kind of biggest drivers? What makes you get shit done? Because we speak about this a lot and we joke about it, but one of my favourite things about you is you just get stuff done and you just do it. So what would you say your biggest driver is to do those things? Is it the same kind of answer as
kind of, but I've always been that way. I've always been that way, and I think part of that is because I never used to be that way. So like, as I say, like it all stems from me having like a period of time when I was at school. Like, you know, I didn't do my homework. I didn't meet my deadlines. I didn't always show up. So it was like...
Sounds like someone I know.
So I probably spent a long time questioning, would I make anything of myself in this life? Because like school had not given me any direction, if that makes sense. So I was kind of like, spent a whole period of time there like, I just don't know what I've got. All my pals are, you know, in the credit classes and all the rest of it, and I was never like a dunce at school or anything like that. I just never applied myself. So I was always I always questioned myself of like, would I make something of myself? And I think when I got into fitness and when I started PT, I realised pretty quickly I was fucking good at it because I was passionate about it. So it was like, it was my opportunity to like prove myself wrong, if that makes sense. So now every little opportunity I have to do that, I like have to grab it with both hands, and make sure I get shit done to the best of my ability. And I think as well, like the amount of trust that people place in you as their personal trainer, like I take that extremely seriously. Like for somebody to choose me and spend their hard earned cash, some people don't have crazy disposable income, but they need it. And for somebody to make that sacrifice and to choose you to be that sacrifice to get them to that place, like I've got more respect for that than most things. And I feel like I owe like the best of me to that person.
Top class.
Nice, mate. Kind of, I guess this will probably be tied in with this answer, but we asked the same question to Dale, and we want to see if your question is... Yeah, we needed a better answer. What does sin mean to you?
I think I listened to Dale's answer on that, and he just kind of said it means everything, and I suppose sin's kind of like the body of my work. Don't get me wrong, it's not just mine, it's Dale's, it's yours, it's everybody's, it's what we've all created, but it's the thing that it is the thing that I've worked towards this whole time. It's been like the dream for me, was to have a place where loads of people could come, feel safe, feel like they can come to a place where they can better themselves, meet like-minded people and grow. And that's what it is to me. It's the body of my work. It's like my dream and my vision like came to fruition. Don't know how good an answer that is, but that is it. It's everything that I've worked for. It's everything that I hoped it would be. And I feel like we've done it, baby. But we're not where we want to be. And as I say, like my dreams, my goals, my visions have changed, and they've merged because I've met different people on my path, and people have helped make that vision greater and bigger. And I want this place to be incredible for you guys, for the people that come here, for me and Dale, for our families, for all of our families. Like it's everything, and I feel like there's no lid on the potential of this thing. I've been saying it since we started it. We're just getting started. Like we genuinely are just getting started. I think since me and Dale called it sin, I think that was maybe 4 years ago now. I still feel like we're just getting started. Every little light bulb moment, every little change that we make, I'm like, right, this is it now. And then something else crops up that just makes it better and better and better. And the people that are involved in it, like you two guys, since you have come on, like I genuinely have never felt better about the whole thing. So it is everything, and it will continue to be everything. because it fits all of my values: business, fitness, and family.
Amazing. You keep answering the questions that we were going to ask within your questions.
I can
Probably
talk a lot.
probably a good one to ask about is that obviously you and they were both the leaders within Sin, and I'd quite like to go into the differences between you two and how yous work so well. Me and Aidan spoke about this in the past, but yous are very different and have different minds.
Mm-hmm.
What are the differences between yous and what makes it work so well?
That's a great question. I would say me and Dale have swapped roles a few times throughout our like don't get me wrong, like this whole thing is stressful. And when I first met Dale, he was a completely different guy to what he is now. He's much more level-headed, he's much more think things over and then like come to the table with something. Whereas he wasn't always like that. I've never been like that. I'm a reactive person, so I think we're quite yin and yang in that regard. Whereas like I could have an emotional response to something and I react to it quickly, whereas he could have an emotional react to something and go, "Gonna sleep on that," and then we'll come to the table with it. So I think like sometimes Dale's like a therapist to me because like something shit could happen and I'm like, fuck, and I chat to him about it. Sometimes I catastrophize things and then he's like it's no as bad as that. So I think we both work very well in different ways because Dale leads the team and he's the best person for leading the team because he's not a reactive person. So sometimes he is, obviously, like we all have our moments with that side of things, but he's definitely not as reactive as me. So in terms of giving feedback, in terms of negative things happening and how to fix them, I feel like he's a little bit more level-headed at like accomplishing those things. I feel like for me, I'm much more probably data-driven. Like I like to know every little nook and cranny about things. I'm very much like, if I've got spare time, I'm looking through every member. Is everything going okay? Like I probably don't miss things very often. I think like that's like I've got like that kind of obsessive kind of personality towards things where like kind of like I spoke about, like I want to give my best to people all the time, and I'm not saying Dale doesn't have that, but that's kind of where I'm best served. Like I don't miss the crumbs. So I feel like me managing the kind of operations of the business, that kind of makes best sense. And also like I think I'm probably maybe a wee bit more confrontational than Dale. So if there's like a tough decision or a tough conversation that has to take place, I'm probably better served for that because I like to get that stuff off my chest. I don't like to sit on things for too long. I like to just like have very, very open conversations and relationships. So I'd say that's the biggest differences between us is like just how we handle situations, and I think it's taken a bit of time for us to position ourselves so that we're working to our strengths and we're not like trying to deal with the same things in different ways and confusing things. So we've just kind of separated our roles and responsibilities within the business to play our strengths. It's taken a while to do that though. Yeah. Definitely, we spent a lot of time fucking like try to both be the main character in too many areas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to something you just mentioned like a couple of seconds ago, and that's something me and Aidan have spoke about just in the past when we said we were going to ask about questions. I've not even written this down, but that's something we really look up to you for, is your communication and how you can have the difficult conversations with people really quickly. Like a lot of people will be people pleasers and they'll bounce around things. Have you always been like that, or have you learned to do that? Because like you'll say things to people where I almost think I couldn't say it like that, but people don't take offence to it almost. Mm-hmm. Like you're very like you have the difficult conversation like that, and it's something that we've both spoke about.
I think the reason I've been like that for as long as I can remember, and I feel like that's probably why people don't take offence to it, because it's the way that I always am. So it's not as if like if I was just saying like if you done something and I just picked on one person all the time, or like dug you out one time, it would be like, oh right, oh god, that was awkward, man. That's out of character. Whereas because I kind of always speak my mind, and I always just say what I feel needs to be said. And like, don't get me wrong, listen, this can be a superpower in some ways, and it can also be a downfall in others, because sometimes you can jump the gun. Sometimes you can have conversations that maybe didn't have to be had right there and then, and don't get me wrong, like you guys said, like you can have that conversation, you maybe don't take it a certain way. Some people do though, and I've had conversations like that, or I've had difficult conversations like that in the past with like paying clients, and they've maybe not liked it, or I've maybe read the situation slightly wrong, and then it's had a negative effect on the relationship. But I've definitely learned from that over the years to get better at like speaking a certain way when the time calls for it. I feel like I set that precedence in here all the time. Like we say it all the time. Like you can't be a snowflake in here. Like if I am in here and I'm fucking about my phone on the gym floor when there's 16 people on that gym floor needing your attention and paying for a service, I want you to be like that. Fuck you up to, Ryan. What are you doing? You're not adhering to your own standards here. Like the things that I say to you, I would expect you to say it to me without getting butthurt about it. So I feel like that's why I don't stress over having these conversations, because I wouldn't stress over somebody having them with me.
Totally. That's why the team works so well, eh? Because we've all kind of got the same kind of standards and values. We've kind of found it. And you said to me the other night when I was driving you home,
because I locked my car.
Because you locked your car. Just thought I would let you say that. You said to me, we've got like the Avengers here, and it actually feels like that, because it just feels so good. It feels good to walk in and kind of know that we're all on the same kind of same wavelength, and all kind of feel good at the place and feel the same way.
Me and Dale had a discussion about that the other day, and like, I think we are like the Avengers, but every Avenger has a different superpower, and I think that's what you need to remember as well. Like, we're all so different, and we all communicate in different ways, and we all handle clients in different ways, and there'll be clients in here that have a favourite coach, but I don't think there'll be any coaches that the clients don't like in here, because we do share the same values. We all have a lot in common, but we all have our own individual strengths as well, and I think that's a really, really good thing. I think having like 4 carbon copies of the same thing isn't well versed enough because none of those clients out there are all the same. So I feel like, right, that's the biggest strength that I think that we have. We're all 4 guys, we're all different ages, we all have a lot in common, but every single one of us has our own superpower.
Amazing, mate. And that comes into the final question that we want to ask you. And that is, you've obviously built your way up. You've got a lot of traits that a lot of people look up to. You've built success in a lot of things. And it's probably good to look back and ask this question of, what was a worry that younger you had that you'd like to go back and reassure yourself it's all right?
This is a great question, and I have a really good answer for it as well, because it's something that I used to think about a lot. Like, I had a really good upbringing, and my mum and dad both had good jobs, they always had nice cars, we lived in a nice house, we lived in a nice area, and with me being lost for a period of time, like just kind of like working in bookies and call centres and not really knowing that anything else would have ever came of myself at that period of time. I didn't really know how to, I didn't really think I didn't have the confidence back then to like start my own business or any of that sort of stuff. I could never have seen me here back then, and I used to worry like, how am I going to have kids and provide like a nice house like this, have nice cars? I used to think that way, and I think I would just go back now and just be like, you simply just haven't found what you're good at and what you're passionate at yet. And I think that is probably the biggest flaw in the education system, is it kind of pigeonholes you into a set structure of different things to learn, and it doesn't give everybody what they need in terms of skill set, in terms of like open-mindedness to understand what you could make of yourself.
Totally. What an answer. That was incredible. What a podcast. Good to have you on, bro. Appreciate you.
Thanks very much. Thanks, lads. I also just want to say, Dale said at the end of it as well, and I'm just going to copycat him here, like 100%. I'm massively proud of you boys. And I'm a genuine fan, because I've listened to all your podcasts. Okay. But genuinely, I think I've actually taken some lessons from your podcast as well. So although you guys have said things like look up to me, like I look up to you guys in ways as well. I I think your first podcast to me was impactful. Started journaling off the back of it, so keep doing what you're doing, lads. It's fucking brilliant, and I can see it's impacting a lot of the members at Sin. It's all getting a lot of good feedback.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you.